So if you are looking for a hotel, you want a place to sleep for a night, and it's a one night stay, you have to ask yourself, how much do I want to spend? Right? Do I want to spend 50 bucks, 150 bucks, 350 bucks, 750 bucks? How much do I want to spend? It's four walls, a roof, a bathroom, and a bed. And what's crazy about it is that you can get hotel rooms at all those price points, and people make those choices every single day. Because at the end of the day, you are spending for something more than just four walls, a roof, a bathroom, and a bed. Maybe it's the comfort of the bed. Maybe it's the size of the bathroom. Maybe it's the service level. Maybe it's the chocolates and the wine that come with it. Maybe it's the view and the balcony. I don't know. But what I do know is there exists a ridiculous number of options when you want to stay at a hotel for a single night, anywhere from sometimes $19 to several $1,000s. And that exists because there are a ridiculous amount of people who have different values all along that value chain. Now, I bring that up because we're talking about how do you find or what defines or how do you choose the best WooCommerce hosting on the planet. And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, there are folks that will sell you a hosting plan, an account for $3, and those that will sell it to you for $1,000, $1,500, $20,000, and it's going to be some SSD drives, some network, right? Some infrastructure. And you're going to go, really? But it's the same dynamic as a hotel room for a night, except that this is an online store, and it's not just one night. It's every single day of the month, every month of the year, and some days in those months are particularly bombarded with traffic. And you go, okay, let's talk about how do you find the right hosting for a WooCommerce store. And the first thing you got to figure out is, what state is your store in, right? Are you just a brand new, just figuring it out, don't have almost any traffic? It's you, your friends, your parents, and a couple customers a day. Well, it's clear that what you need is going to be very different than, a moderate store. Good number of orders a day, feels pretty good. Every now and then has a spike. Or, oh my goodness, right? This thing is running hot every single day. We got tons of orders all the time. Every hour it feels like there's a rush. And on the days where it gets crazy, it falls over, right? It's that crazy. Those are three different kinds of stores, and you're likely going to need three different kinds of plans. Whether they're the same host or different hosts, you don't need the same thing for those things. But there are some things you do need for your store. Some things that differentiate your store from other websites. And I'd like to spend just a little bit of time talking about those things. The first is caching. You by now know that, and someone's likely said, oh, caching makes your website faster. It does. It makes your website faster by pre-configuring, preloading certain amounts of data, certain files, to make it faster for you to get access to them. But of course, in an online store, not everything can be cached. For example, if I go to my shopping cart, I would like to see the things I put in it. And if you go to your shopping cart, you'd like to see what you put in it. But I don't want to see your stuff and you don't want to see mine. So you're not going to cache the cart page. You're not going to cache checkout. You're not going to cache a whole different. Also, what about your product pages? If you have inventory counts on there, right? 25 left, 37 left, what have you. You don't want to necessarily cache that part of the page, right? Because you're like, well, hold on. I want that to be dynamic and changing so that people feel some pressure. So you cannot just say, oh, good, I found a WordPress hosting plan that's really inexpensive. They use heavy caching, and I'll just use them for my WooCommerce store. It's not going to work. You're going to need to host with a company who understands that it's a WooCommerce store and that WooCommerce doesn't get cached the same way. As long as they understand that, you're in good hands. And there are several hosts that do understand that, right? So caching is one thing you have to understand. It's different than your normal WordPress website. Another dynamic you need to understand is What happens when you have a lot of people ordering at the same time? When a lot of people are ordering at the same time, you likely need more PHP workers. PHP workers are essentially the concurrent threads that your web server allows you to spin up so that you can have more lanes on the highway. And if you have more traffic, you want more lanes or else you get gridlock, right? So if you're working with a host who understands that, they're not just going to say, "Oh, okay, well, we give you 2 PHP workers and you're done," right? You will likely need more, and often you have to pay for more. But that's important to understand throughput. If you have a lot of traffic coming through, even if it's just 1 hour a day, but you have a lot of traffic coming through, you need your server to be able to dynamically scale or support that many uh, concurrent users. I'll tell you this too. There are people who talk about auto scale, but if they're talking about auto scale from a RAM and disk and not a PHP worker, you might be given more RAM and more disk and still not get more lanes on the highway. That's not going to help you very much. So you need to ask about the PHP workers. You need to understand that that's a key part of it, along with RAM and disk and everything else. So that's a second way that your store is going to be different than the way a normal website would be hosted. But it's more than that, right? Today, your store isn't competing with other WooCommerce stores. Your store is competing across the globe with all the other online stores. And the bar for the feature set for online stores has gone up and up and up. Now, you know what your host is going to tell you. Oh, well, we don't get into that, right? We just provide the box and the network and the power and the resources of the server, and then you take care of the rest. And that's what you'll hear from most folks. It's why we created Managed WooCommerce Hosting, so that we could say, no. The reality is you're competing against a Shopify store and a Magento store, a who knows what else store, right? And each of those stores is coming with other features. And we know that if you're a developer, your customers are coming to you saying, I want this feature and this feature. If you're a merchant, you're saying, I want the feature that looks like that guy's store. And it's about some features, marketing features, engagement features. And those features in the WooCommerce world have normally been extensions that you have to pay for. And it's easy as a developer or a merchant to feel a little bit like, oh, now I got to buy that feature and I got to buy that feature and when will this end? So our managed WooCommerce offering also supports some of those features, key features that we think you need. For example, cart abandonment. If someone is leaving your site, you know you want a way to capture some of their information and make sure that you can follow up with them. So we make it a key part of the platform. But it's not just cart abandonment, right? Image compression. Everybody and their brother knows that web pages are getting slower and slower, and e-commerce product pages get even slower because you have all those images on there, right? And galleries and videos and whatever. You go, I need a way to automatically, behind the scenes, compress images and make sure that they're fast. Make sure the page loads up quickly. Page speed is such an important thing. And so, is that there? Or is your host going to tell you, well, you also need to go buy that somewhere else? What about reporting? Right? The reporting that allows you to segment your customers. We think that's critical. And we think that how you deliver reporting is just as critical as the fact that you do deliver reporting. If you deliver reporting on the same server that's functioning as your e-commerce store, it means that cycle time and processes on that server are being used for reporting and not to solve the problems of your customers putting things in their carts. You don't want that. So off-site reporting is critical and a key part of how we do things. But you'd want that from anyone, right? And you'd want to talk to someone about it. Invariably, what often you'll hear is, oh, well, we can do that. We support it. You just have to buy some other reporting SaaS and then make the connection and they'll pull the data out. And that's true. That is how it would work, right? We do it the same way, except we don't charge you the extra for buying that other account. Those are a couple of the pieces that make kind of hosting a WooCommerce store different. But you need more than that. It's not just features. You also need to think about support. When you dial in support, whether you're using a phone or whether you're on chat or however you're doing it, when you reach out for help, does the person on the other end understand, number one, that it's a store? Like, just powering it down or moving it to another site and changing the IP address, those are not solutions. Do they understand the store software? Do they understand WooCommerce? Do they know where to look and say, oh, I think you have this problem. Let's go look and figure it. Yep, you do. Let's change it and clean it out. Right? Do they understand WooCommerce? And then do they understand performance? Because it turns out that not all extensions for WooCommerce are the same. When we look at a site for a customer and we're doing support and we see some of these plugins that are really poor performers, we know they're poor performers. And we say, you're using this, you may want to use this instead. And that swap drops 3 seconds off page load times. And the customer's like, this is amazing. But you don't get there by just saying, I know how to install WooCommerce. I have a one-touch installer for WooCommerce. You get there by knowing WooCommerce, knowing the extensions, understanding and looking at thousands of stores so that you can say, yeah, this is a good call. I would worry about this. Or why do you have 2 of these? You don't need both. At the end of the day, when you're choosing the right hosting for WooCommerce, you have to know about your store. You have to understand your demand. You also have to think through what features you need and what support you need. And then, of course, you get to the last question, which is how much do you want to spend? Now, for the longest time, when we created Manage WooCommerce, we started at $250 a month. And that was because we were talking to serious store owners, right? We were talking to folks that were building or bringing over serious stores from somewhere else. But over the last couple of years, we have started working with new stores, young stores that thought, I might look at Shopify or I might look at WooCommerce. And we said, why don't we help you make a really compelling case to check out WooCommerce? And just last week, we rolled out a brand new $19 a month store, which is a little bit like that $49 hotel room. It's not going to give you a ridiculous quantity of resources. It's not going to say like you could host a store that's doing $1 million an hour on $19 a month. That would be awesome. But you can do thousands of dollars a month in revenue on $19. And that's pretty amazing. We created a low price plan. We have several larger plans so that wherever you want to spend, we have a solution for you. And we've even created a metric to help you understand which plan you should look at, which is max orders per hour. We're not talking about max orders in a month because what you really need to understand is when does the traffic get serious? That's what you need to understand. And so if it only, if you have a nice even distribution of traffic across a month, no problem. But if you have peaks, which a lot of stores do, you want to understand, do I have the right infrastructure for that level? And then, of course, because we do auto scaling, even if you're off a little bit, you're still okay. It's why I highly recommend the Liquid Web and Nexus WooCommerce plans, because they are, without question, the best out there. And now, at any price that you want to look for.